Hello, and thank you for taking the time to be part of this presentation. I'll take gamification for 200, Alex. Can using games improve student engagement? What is gamification and why does it belong in the classroom? Google says the word gamification has only been in common usage since about 2019. Gamification is the use of game elements in areas that you wouldn't typically think to use them. These are a few ways gamification can be used in the classroom. You can use games to increase student engagement. You can use them in integrating subjects, and they are a useful tool for encouraging peer interaction with less anxiety and stress. Engagement and achievement. When you are engaged, you will expend more effort and not just sit passively. Engagement feeds motivation. Motivation nurtures success. The more value you place on something, the more effort you will expend on that. When students are engaged, they value what they are doing. They become motivated to learn, and this impacts their academic success. When students lack motivation, this leads to apathy. 2/3 of students say that they are bored in class on a daily basis. Why gamification? Games have a specified goal, just like a quality lesson or activity in a classroom has clearly identified objectives. Games hook the students. In the WHERE model of instruction, the hook is the way to pique students' interest. Topo and Squire found that when you start with a game, it gives the students context to connect further information to. Apathy does not work well in games. Games encourage participation. Games also encourage participants to question, which is a skill that will transfer to other areas of life. You want to use games, but how do you make sure they aren't just fluff and are valuable tools for your classroom? I'm going to walk you through 2 examples using these stars here on the screen. If you were doing a rhyming game for younger learners, you clearly identify your objective. The students will generate pairs of rhyming words that fit into the song Down by the Bay. You design the game or activity. Will the students raise their hand? Will the teacher use popsicle sticks to call names? How will you make sure that students participate and engage? 3, the tools. Are there any tools, materials that the students need in order to participate in this game? This game, like all games, you will begin as a whole group so that the teacher can help them practice. I once had a coach that said, practice doesn't make perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. When the kids go to doing the game independently or in groups, you want to make sure that they know what is expected. So you start the game as a whole group. As the students go into doing it in a smaller group or possibly on their own, the teacher then has to monitor. At the end of the time for the game, the class comes back together for feedback and discussion, what the students like, if they have any questions over what has happened in the game, if they hit a snag and they want to share, their solution to that with the class, this is the time for that. Another possible game you could use would be an online game. I have used the platform Kahoot to create games for my classroom. When creating a Kahoot game, the teacher will decide the purpose. I use the standards that I am following that week. Example, one of our math standards for first grade is add within 100, including adding a 2-digit number and a 1-digit number. The design of the game is very easy when I use Kahoot because Kahoot has question prompts and allows me to determine how long the students get to answer each question. So do they get 30 seconds to answer? Do they get a minute to answer? I can, within Kahoot, adjust that as needed. What tools are needed? Well, within Kahoot, they need their computer. They also might need a whiteboard and a marker to do the problems. They might need their base 10 blocks. So what tools do my students need to be successful in this game? Again, you begin as a whole group so that the students know what is expected as you progress through the game. As you leave from whole group to either small group or independently, the teacher monitors. Kahoot games are played as a group, but I do still need to monitor that the students are doing the work on their whiteboards, trying to get the correct answer. At the end of the game, you come back for feedback and discussion. Kahoot does have an option that allows the students to provide feedback with a thumbs up, a thumbs down. Did you learn anything? Would you recommend this? It also gives the teachers data on questions that might have been too easy because more than 90% of the students got it right, or might have been too hard because less than 20% of the students got it right. Social emotional benefits. Students can connect with peers and the teacher as well as content. Connections are crucial in fostering brain development. Games also provide what Topo and Squire refer to as hard fun. Hard fun is something that is challenging but safe. You can make mistakes. You can take risks. But within the game, it's safe because there is no long-term consequence for whatever mistake or risk you take. Executive functioning. In order to be successful in school and life, executive functioning skills are key. Playing games can foster these skills. Working memory. Students have to keep the game rules and strategies and use it when appropriate. Impulse control. Students have to think through their answer or the next step in order to succeed in the game. If it's a whole group game, they have to raise their hand and wait to be called on. In an organization, students have to keep track of the tools needed for that game or keep track of their materials. Playing games can also activate higher level cognitive skills. Bloom's taxonomy is probably very familiar to many educators. When we design activities, we want to foster those high thinking skills for our students. Games can do this. Games can ask you to analyze information to solve problems. Analysis is right in the middle, but in the upper level of the Bloom's taxonomy. Games may require users to plan strategy. Planning a strategy is synthesis, again, a higher level thinking skill. And then when users have to predict how their answer or their strategy affects their success in the game, that is also one of the higher level thinking skills. That one is evaluation. They have to evaluate what they are doing. They have to predict to see how their choices affect their scores. Types of games. Do they all have to be on the computer? Well, I gave you an example earlier of using the song in the rhyming activity. Not all games have to be on a computer. In fact, for younger learners, the computer games may prove more frustrating and less engaging. If a student has never used a computer before, they're not just learning the content, they're also having to learn how to use the computer. It becomes frustrating. Playing memory is a game that can work on those executive functioning skills. They've got to keep in their brain where those cards were when their partner or the other person turned them over. Games of I Spy and 20 questions. The kids have to keep that information in their brains. And they have to be able to use that information to justify their reply. If I said, I'm thinking of something blue and purple, and the student said grass, how does that make sense with the clue that I gave you? They have to be able to justify how grass goes with blue and purple, if it does. Puzzles. Puzzles promote analyzing, planning, arranging, rearranging, spatial awareness, all of those things that students need to be successful academically, but also in life. As I said before, singing the song Down by the Bay or any other song. The game headbands. This is one that I've had great success with. Students have to learn how to give clues. They have to learn how to answer incomplete sentences, but they've got to remember that they cannot give the answer to the person that is wearing the headband. And then bingo. Who doesn't like bingo? But bingo games can promote working memory and planning. Allie Herndon and Killingsworth Roberts called their article a retrospective because using games and purposeful play used to be normal in classrooms. Engagement can help children feel confident, which increases motivation. Playing games allows for learning, risk-taking, and mistake-making in a lower anxiety situation. And questioning skills. Questioning skills apply in real life. We are bombarded daily with information. We have to know how to question in order to determine if the information we're given is valid or reliable. One last thought. Game scores start at 0 and build up from there. Learning is much the same. Games can make getting the high score more engaging.